Let me tell you about the day I received a letter in a crisp white envelope, official looking, with a gold embossed seal in the corner, that changed the entire direction of my life. Not in a bad way, in the best possible way. But getting there required patience, some remarkable discoveries, and a very clear understanding of exactly what I owned. My name is Marcus Webb. I spent 22 years as a logistics manager, moving freight across 3 continents, living out of hotels, eating airport sandwiches, and promising myself that one day I would stop moving and plant something. Literally. Vegetables. Trees. Maybe some goats. I wanted to feel land beneath my feet that actually belonged to me. When I retired at 54, I had savings, a pension, and a very specific dream. I wanted acreage. I wanted morning quiet. I wanted to watch seasons change from a porch I owned outright. So I started searching rural listings. And that is how I found the Hargrove Farm. The Hargrove Farm sat on 47 acres of rolling land about 12 miles outside Cloverfield. The farm itself was old. The original deed dated back to 1887. The farmhouse needed work, the barn needed more, and the pasture fencing was more suggestion than structure. But the land was stunning. A creek along the eastern boundary, a stand of mature oaks on the north end, and soil so dark and rich it almost looked wet on dry days. I paid cash, closed in 30 days, and moved in with 2 suitcases and a sense of purpose I had not felt in years. For the first 3 weeks, I was entirely absorbed in the property, walking every corner of my 47 acres, mapping the creek, cataloguing the trees, pulling together estimates from contractors for the farmhouse renovation. I had not paid much attention to the neighborhood spreading just beyond my southern fence line. I noticed the neat rows of matching mailboxes. I noticed the uniform landscaping. I noticed the small signs near the entrance reading, Cloverfield Meadows, a planned community. But it all felt far away. My farm sat well outside those borders, separated by a county road and a long gravel driveway that felt like its own world. Then the letter arrived. It came on a Tuesday morning, while I was drinking coffee on the porch. I opened the envelope and read. The letter was from the Cloverfield Meadows Homeowners Association, signed by someone named Gerald Pinch, president of the HOA board. It welcomed me warmly to the community, then explained that as a new property owner in the area, I was subject to the association's covenants, conditions, and restrictions. Annual dues of $940, payable quarterly, approved paint colors, lawn maintenance schedules, restrictions on outbuildings, and a note that non-compliance could result in fines and a lien on my property. I read it twice. Then I read it a third time. I want to be clear, I am not a confrontational person. By nature and by decades of professional training, I am a problem solver who likes to understand systems. So instead of firing off a reply, I made a phone call to the county recorder's office. Within an hour, I had pulled the original survey of the Hargrove Farm, the current parcel map, and the recorded plat for Cloverfield Meadows. I spread them across my kitchen table and compared them carefully. The Cloverfield Meadows HOA had been established in 2009 when a developer purchased land and subdivided it into the planned community that now bordered my southern fence. The CC&Rs governing that community applied to every lot within the recorded plat, and the mere recorded plat very clearly ended at the county road. The Hargrove Farm parcel was not included. It had never been included. It predated the HOA by more than 100 years. There was no easement, no covenant running with the land, no recorded agreement of any kind, connecting my 47 acres to the Cloverfield Meadows Association. I was, in the most complete and documented sense, outside their jurisdiction. Now, I could have simply written back, enclosed copies of the relevant documents, and left it there. But as I sat with those maps spread across my kitchen table, something else caught my eye. The original 1887 deed for the Hargrove Farm described a boundary that was slightly larger than the current survey on file. There was a discrepancy. Not dramatic, perhaps 30 feet along the eastern edge, near the creek, but enough that I wanted to understand it. So I hired a licensed land surveyor named Patricia Osei, who came out the following week with her equipment and her assistant, and spent 2 full days walking the boundaries of my property. What Patricia found was remarkable. The eastern boundary, as established by the original 1887 deed and confirmed by Iron Survey, pins still present in the ground, extended to the center line of Callow Creek. Over the decades, when the property changed hands and was resurveyed informally, someone had pale recorded a boundary that stopped short of the creek by 28 feet along a 300-foot stretch. That narrow strip, creekside land with mature willows, a natural spring, and exceptional soil, had been left in a legal grey area. It appeared on no other deed. It was simply unaccounted for. Patricia filed her corrected survey with the county. After a title review that took about 6 weeks and involved a very thorough title attorney named Samuel Okafor, the 28-foot strip was formally confirmed as part of my property. I had not purchased it separately. It had always been mine. We had simply found what the records should have shown all along. The total addition came to just over a third of an acre. That might not sound like much, but that spring, the one I mentioned, feeding into the creek, turned out to produce exceptionally clean, high-volume water. A hydrologist I brought in estimated its output at roughly 40 gallons per minute. For a working farm, that was not a small thing. That was, potentially, everything. By this point, the HOA situation had been quietly resolved. I had written a polite, well-documented letter to Gerald Pinch, including copies of the parcel map, the plat, and the county recorder's confirmation that my property was outside their jurisdiction. Gerald responded promptly and professionally, apologizing for the confusion. Their management company had been using an imprecise map. He confirmed in writing that the Hargrove Farm was not subject to their CC&Rs and that no dues or proceedings would be pursued. He also, and I found this genuinely kind, invited me to attend one of their neighborhood events, as a neighbor and not as a member. He said the community liked knowing who lived around them, and they hoped we could get along well, regardless of HOA boundaries. I accepted. I brought vegetables from my garden, but people were warm and curious about the old farm. A few of them, it turned out, were very interested in purchasing locally grown produce. That conversation planted a seed of its own. Over the following year, I converted the Hargrove Farm into a functioning small-scale operation. The spring made irrigation consistent and affordable. The soil proved ideal for heirloom tomatoes, squash, cutting flowers, and herbs. I hired 2 part-time workers, Delia, who had studied sustainable agriculture, and Robert, a semi-retired landscaper who knew more about soil amendment than anyone I had met. Together, we built raised beds along the south pasture, restored the barn into a storage and washing facility, and set up a roadside stand at the end of my gravel driveway. The stand did well from the first weekend. By midsummer, I was selling out within hours, and by autumn had a waiting list for advance harvest shares. Several restaurants reached out. A local chef, named Isabel, contacted me about a standing weekly order for herbs and specialty greens. I also, in the spirit of good neighbor relations, began selling directly to several Cloverfield Meadows residents who had become regular customers. Gerald Pinch was among them. He turned out to be genuinely pleasant, a retired civil engineer who was fascinated by the farm's history and occasionally volunteered to help with fencing projects just to have something physical to do on weekends. The HOA letter, which had arrived like a small storm cloud over my peaceful morning coffee, turned out to be one of the most useful pieces of mail I have ever received. It prompted me to pull the property records. Pulling the records led me to the survey discrepancy. The survey led Patricia Osei to my property, and Patricia Osei's careful, professional work uncovered a spring that now feeds an entire working farm and a small, thriving business. That is the thing about owning land. You do not always know what you have until you look carefully. And sometimes, looking carefully reveals far more than you expected. The Hargrove Farm is now in its 3rd full season of operation. We have expanded into a small CSA, a community-supported agriculture share program, with 42-member households, most of them in the area. My farmhouse renovation was completed last spring. Wide plank floors, a restored stone fireplace, a proper kitchen. I have the goats I always wanted, 3 of them, named Principal, Interest, and Equity, which I find endlessly amusing. I wake up before sunrise most mornings, walk the fence line with a cup of coffee, and watch the hawks over the oaks. The spring runs steadily along the eastern edge, clear and cold, finding its way into Callow Creek, just as it has for longer than any of us have been alive. Sometimes the best things begin with a letter you almost didn't take seriously. Sometimes the most important step is simply knowing exactly what you own. And sometimes, 47 acres of old farm outside somebody else's HOA turns out to be exactly enough.